At 82, I've learned many lessons, but one choice I deeply regret is moving into a nursing home. My family encouraged me, assuring me it was the right decision. I trusted them, believing I'd be comfortable and well cared for. But once I arrived, I quickly realized that reality was far from what I had imagined. If you're considering this option for yourself or a loved one, you may think it's the safest choice. Maybe you've been told it will make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share some things I wish I had known beforehand. Living in a nursing home doesn't just change where you live, it changes everything. And once you're in, leaving isn't as simple as you might think. The biggest shock wasn't the small room, the scheduled meals, or the unfamiliar faces. It was realizing I no longer had control over my own life. At home, I had my own rhythm. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, how to spend my day. I could go for a walk whenever I wanted, prepare my own meals, or relax in my favorite chair with a book. But inside the nursing home, my time was no longer my own. Everything ran on a schedule I didn't choose. Breakfast was served whether I was hungry or not. Lights went out at a set time whether I was ready for bed or not. Even small choices, what to eat, what to wear, became privileges instead of basic freedoms. My first week, I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I looked around and realized my books, my favorite chair, and all my little comforts were gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I hadn't chosen, and an unsettling realization. I was no longer in charge of my life. Once you give up independence, getting it back is nearly impossible. You stop arguing when they tell you what's for dinner. You stop asking to go for a walk. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. Another painful reality of nursing home life is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family promised to visit often. At first, they did. My daughter came weekly, my grandchildren visited on weekends, and for a while, I still felt connected to my old life. But as time passed, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got caught up with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Plans would change at the last minute, and I'd find myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It's not that my family stopped loving me, life just got in the way. When you're not part of their daily routine, it's easy for them to assume you're fine. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget how much you still need them. I remember sitting in my room holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. So I put the phone down. In that moment, it hit me. This was my life now. Watching the days pass, hoping someone would remember me. Moving into a nursing home didn't just change where I lived, it changed why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities, routines, and hobbies. Even small things, watering plants, making coffee, tidying up, gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were prepared for me. Someone else cleaned my space. At first, I told myself it would be nice to relax, but after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents too. People who once had energy and drive now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named Henry, 84, who had spent his life as a carpenter. Back home, he was always busy, fixing things, building projects. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew. "I feel useless," he told me one day, and I knew exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows, the body weakens, and you start to feel like just another resident in a place where the days pass, yet nothing really changes. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you're there, finding purpose isn't as simple as just filling your time. It's about holding on to the things that make you feel alive. Another regret I have is how quickly my health declined. Before I moved in, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't climbing mountains, but I could take care of myself. I'd cook, go for walks, stick to my routines. But once I moved in, things changed. Meals were brought to me, so I no longer stood in the kitchen. If I needed anything, I'd press a button for help. At first, it seemed like a relief. What I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I moved less, sat more, and soon my legs felt stiff. Even getting up from a chair became hard. The strength I had worked to maintain for years faded faster than I expected. I saw it happen to others too. People who arrived walking on their own were soon using wheelchairs. Those who had managed independently now needed help with basic tasks. My neighbor, Margaret, arrived full of life, walking daily. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then came the walker. Eventually, the wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I feel like I've aged 10 years in just a few months." And that's exactly what it felt like. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. One thing I didn't fully think through before moving in was how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. But in a nursing home, privacy is a rare luxury. From the moment I arrived, I felt constantly watched. Staff came in and out, room checks were routine, and shared spaces meant I was rarely alone. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required assistance. I knew they were just doing their job, but it was difficult to accept help for things I had done independently my whole life. I struggled with the realization that I now had to ask for permission for things I never thought twice about. Want a shower? You might have to wait. Need the restroom? Press the call button and hope for quick assistance. Even meals were out of my control. If I didn't like what was on the menu, there weren't many other options. Then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. I was lucky. My roommate was kind, but others weren't as fortunate. No matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it never truly is. Losing dignity is harder than you'd think. When someone knocks but doesn't always wait before entering, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routine is dictated by a schedule you had no part in creating, it changes you. You start to feel less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. One thing I didn't expect was how difficult it would be to leave. When I first moved in, I thought it was temporary. But my home wasn't the same anymore. It had sat empty for months, and maintaining it became a challenge. My children started making changes, selling things, even talking about renting the place out. When I mentioned wanting to go back, they hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage alone? Wouldn't it be safer to stay?" Then there was my own physical decline. After months of not having to cook, clean, or even walk much, I wasn't as strong. Independence was slipping away. The thought of living alone again started to feel overwhelming. The longer you stay, the harder it is to adjust to life outside. For many, leaving is no longer an option once homes are sold or savings are drained. I don't regret growing older, but I regret believing a nursing home was my only choice. Before making that decision, think carefully about what you're giving up. If I had the chance to do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. Your independence is worth holding on to for as long as possible. Not all nursing homes are bad. Some people truly need them. But before making this decision, think about what you're giving up. Once inside, life changes. If I could go back, I would have done everything to stay home, finding solutions that preserved my freedom. I would have made sure moving was truly necessary. If you're facing this choice, ask yourself, is this really the best option for me, or just the easiest one? Your independence is worth holding on to as long as possible. Thank you for being here. Share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us create even more valuable content. See you soon.